on with you guys and share what we have been doing in our community and the impactful work of climate change. Well, definitely, we're still marching on the great fight of climate change. We have been attending some of the St. Lucie County initiatives because they have initiatives going on right now with climate change. So, definitely being at the table, I think, is extremely important to share our view and the residents' view when you're making plans to for a larger community whole. But definitely since the video, we have been impacted tremendously by Hurricane Milton. Me personally, I want to share how that hurricane had impacted me. It was just a average day that we were preparing for the hurricane. So we was outside putting up shutters around our house. The hurricane was probably supposed to hit 12 hours from us putting the shutters up, and it started to rain lightly. So we just came inside just to take a quick break because it was raining outside when the lights went off. And within 2 or 3 minutes, I started hearing my phone with a lot of different alerts. But to be honest, I didn't even look at the phone because, trying to find the flashlights and everything. And because I pulled everything out, but I needed to put batteries in. And I have a young daughter that was upstairs in her room, and she came downstairs because the lights went off. And within probably 1 minute of her coming downstairs, we just we heard this howling sound. And it was so much pressure in our ears as if we were on an airplane. And me and my husband looked at each other. We knew something was terribly wrong, and we just ran to cover. We had no idea at the time that was the first of three tornadoes to come through our area. And so all we heard was objects hitting our home. Um, we heard glass breaking. It was so much pressure. We was extremely terrified. And it lasted probably, I want to say, 3 or 4 minutes. And we was like, what was that? We went outside, and the devastation was completely just mind-boggling. We stay across the street from our clubhouse, and it was a car that flew right in front of our yard that was turned upside down. Also, it was two commercial dumpsters that was there. That one flew in front of our house, the other one flew in our neighbor's garage. My When we opened our door, the back patio screen from a neighbor house was right there in our front door. It the roofs have tile roofs, so you've seen all this debris and tile roofs everywhere. And so our neighbors at that point started to gather outside, like, what was that? And I want to say probably within a minute or so, we heard that howling sound again, and everybody started to run in their home. And the second tornado came and hit the house. And then another tornado came probably like 3 minutes after that one again. And so this time everybody waited quite some time to go back outside. But when we went outside, I mean, we had trees that were everywhere, trees uprooted. You could not drive down the street. My patio, like, we lost all of our patio furniture, all of the things that's in our backyard completely gone. Me and my husband's cars were completely total. Matter of fact, everybody on our street cars were totaled. Everyone on our street house had significant damage to the house. This includes the roof, windows. We had holes in our garage doors. And we still didn't even know what happened. We were preparing for a hurricane. So we're like, the hurricane is not even supposed to come until another like 11 hours. And so, we never in a million years would have thought that we would have been hit by tornadoes. growing up, it was just something that we seen. Tornadoes being in the Midwest never really affected Florida, but that just goes to show like how climate change has just changed everything. That you're preparing for a hurricane and completely out of the blue, you get hit by a tornado. The damage was so massive in our area that the director of FEMA had to come down. And then going through the whole process of dealing with FEMA and dealing with the insurance companies. I mean, it's a year later. That tornado was a year ago this month, and we are still in our community dealing with the repairs and the fights to get our home fixed. So it's definitely, climate change is like a compounded problem. You have these storms that's just devastating, and then to try to pick yourselves up and dust yourselves off and move on and repair the damage. It's an uphill fight and an uphill battle. But because we do community service, we couldn't even think about ourselves first. Our first response was to the community. What did the community needed from us in order to help to repair? So it was massive amount of flooding, and so it took about probably over a week for all of the water to dry up from that. But hurricane or tornadoes is something that has devastated Florida for a long time. And if we don't do something collectively as a community to just really get a grasp on climate change, I'm afraid that Florida might not be here.
Canieria, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. I just tensed up sharing, yeah, you with your young daughter and how scary that must have been. So thank you for just bringing us there. And I mean, I know you do such inspirational work with Inc. throughout the community. Would you like to share a bit about how Inc. stood up for the community at that time? And I'll share, I live in a town that was really hit by a flood about 2, 3 years ago. And, it was the community-based organizations, also our business improvement district that
Absolutely.
stepped up first. That was, that is where people looked for support.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was extremely very, very devastating. It was just, when I think about that day and how my daughter came down the right time because her room that she was playing in had the most damage. It was so much glass in her room because we didn't make it upstairs yet in order to put the shutters up there. So her room was extremely very had a lot of damage to it, and she could have got severely hurt. But as far as Inc. and how we stood up for the community during that time, definitely resources. People needed to get connected with resources. People needed help filling out their homeowners insurance applications. Also, people needed help with just knowing where to go to get the resources. A lot of people wasn't aware that FEMA had came down, and so there was different stations where you can go and actually start that application process through FEMA. So we was a conduit to getting people connected to those resources as well. And we also share resources to help with individuals to get free sandbags and stuff like that prior to the hurricane hitting. And what was ironic enough is when the tornado hit, a couple of hours later, the hurricane still came. So we were hit with a double whammy. Like within a 24-hour period, we got hit by a tornado as well as a hurricane. And so, people needed water, people needed food. So definitely to be able to connect them to the resources. One thing I'm proud about in our community, St. Lucie County, that we have a lot of resources in the communities, and there's a lot of great organizations that we're partnering with in order to share that information, so the burden wasn't as a heavy lift, because definitely Inc. is not on the island by themselves. We work as far as a community collective, and so just being out there and sharing that information, sometimes in poverty-stricken areas, just getting the information out to the community and to the residents is extremely very important job, to be able to do that and to direct them and to just give them a sign of relief. I know when the director of FEMA came personally in our neighborhood, it meant so much to me and my neighbors in the community that somebody from the federal government was concerned with us and was there to give us guidance to get us back on the track to rebuild it.
Thank you for sharing Inc.'s work and also the work of your other partners in the community and your governmental partners. We have a limited amount of time, so if anyone has a direct question, please add it in the chat. But you ended with talking about opportunities for more resilience in the community and a rebuild. What do you see as the main opportunities to enhance resilience and also to avoid the compounded risks that you were talking about before? And we also think of the compounding risks of housing and transportation policy. So would love to hear what you're looking to see happen next.
Um, definitely from going through this experience, I often think, well, how could this have been avoided? Or how could we have known about this? But in our history, as I'm a born Floridian. I don't believe it was a time that we're preparing for a hurricane and here comes a tornado. So that's something brand new for us. And to just understand why that happened in order for us to put together a better plan to prepare. So those conversations have already started in order to create change. Sometimes things just start with a conversation. I do know that St. Lucie County have applied for funds through FEMA in order to start some of this work. They're doing charrettes right now in the community to get input and feedback from stakeholders, business owners, as well as residents, as far as how can we move forward in a collective manner. So I think just by coming together with all different types of level of government, businesses, and community members and residents, I think that's a great start to have these conversations to be able to put together better plans that will help our community be safe in a time of need. But the communication was extremely very fluid from government officials during that time. And so we were able to, stay on top of it and really just be assets to the community.
Well, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. So I'd be curious to hear, since I think when we worked together last year and the year prior, some of the topics around climate resilience or calling it explicitly climate resilience were maybe on the newer end for Inc., which was part of the reason we worked together on the video. Can you share with us now, how is climate resilience part of the work at Inc., and what interests are you getting from the community members that you serve?
Well, definitely, climate is a mystery for most individuals that we seem to talk about. They just don't understand climate, or they can't wrap their head around climate change or, climate resistance. And we have even had some type of resistance from just being transparent, just saying climate change. Some people look at it as, oh, wow, that's a dirty word, which I can't really understand, because to understand how we live and how the environment plays a role on in which we live and how we do business, I think that's an important conversation to have. So just having those conversations and talking about climate resilience and educating the community on exactly what that is, people are starting to get more interested. They're starting to take charge because they know how it affects them directly. I think one of the things that we learned, that we have to take concepts that they don't quite understand and make those concepts about them, and how this affects them and how it affects their kids. And when you have communication like that, it's like they have their arm on, like, okay, I understand this is important, because when this happened or when this event happened, our house is underwater, and or I can't get to work because transportation is a barrier. So we're starting to have those conversations, and to be honest, that's something that I'm extremely very proud of in our community.
Well, thank you, Canieria. We have one more question that's come through the audience as well, which I think you inadvertently answered a lot of it, but I want to make sure we have the full time for it. Just asking, how can other communities start the conversation that, aren't quite at the place where you are about climate resilience? What other advice do you have?
I would say just start small. Sometimes by just having those conversations with the entities in your community that actually this might be their initiative and see how you can help in that work. Also taking the concerns and speaking to the local government. I definitely, I think it's better to start having those conversations one-on-one with meetings with local government or individuals in the community that's their business is weather and making sure that the community is safe. I think that's the best place to start. And once you start to have those conversations, you can develop a committee, and then you can actually, once you develop a committee and put together a plan as far as what you want to see in your community, then you can look and see what type of grants that can support the work that you're wanting to do to be the conduit to change.
Thank you so much. I think we're right at 2:30. I want to thank you for joining us and for the amazing work you've done with Inc., with your leadership, and with the video. Thanks, Joseph, for kicking us off today. And I know everyone has a busy schedule with Florida Climate Week, so we will wrap up now, but the speaker group can stay on for a few minutes in the event anyone just wants to say hello. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Canieria and Catherine, for that great fireside chat.
Absolutely. Thank you also for the opportunity.